Hi guys, so I'm gonna go over the gear that I carried for my northbound Long Trail through hike. It's been, I think, 3 weeks and 1 day today, and I still haven't unpacked my pack, so here we are. We're gonna see what's in there. I will start with the clothes that I wore. On my feet, I wore Hoka Speed Goats. I brought 2 pairs of like the mid-weight Darn Tough socks. Shorts, I wore Patagonia baggies. I really like these because they are just like a little more durable than other shorts, and I'm pretty short, so I have to like slide down on rocks and stuff, and I don't have to worry about them ripping. I wore a cheap Target sports bra, and then I just wore a short sleeve Lululemon tank top. I wore a buff a lot around my head, as I'm sure you saw in my videos, which I really like to be able to pull down over my ears to help with bugs and just to help with sweat. I had REI Flash Carbon trekking poles. I have not been let down by these yet. I really like them. If I ever were to switch, I would probably just switch to a carbon trekking pole that had a cork handle. These get kind of gross when it's 90 and you're sweating like crazy. My pack is the Z-Packs Arc Scout, which is technically like a child pack, but I have a really short torso, so it works for me. I am mostly pleased with the pack, but one of the like stays in the back actually broke, like maybe around mile 180 when we were doing Camel's Hump. So that kind of sucked, and I wasn't very happy about that. I think it was kind of a fluke thing, but Z-Packs, when I got home, actually sent me 2 replacements, so the pack is still obviously fully functional. On the outside of my pack, I carried Crocs for camp shoes, which were a must. I wore them every night and every morning. I have just like a regular bandana that I bought from Walmart. I use this to like dry my face if I wash my face or legs. I used it to like dry out my tent, dry out anything that I needed. I carried a separate cloth that I carried in my cook pot to clean up my cook pot and stuff, so I just use this for anything else. I have a Kula cloth, which is basically a pee rag. I have dirty, crunchy socks, which are gross. I carried a Spot X 2-way messenger. There was never a day I didn't have cell service multiple times, but given that I was hiking alone, it was nice to have. I think almost every night I had cell service at camp, except for maybe like 3 or 4 nights, so it was nice to be able to just like send a text and check in. I have a little digital thermometer that I got off Amazon, which is nice when it's like cold or really hot to be able to be like, oh, it's 95 out, or you know, it was 37 when I got up this morning. My side pockets, I started with 2 smart water bottles. I started with a 1 liter bottle and then a 0.7 liter bottle that I carried in the pouch on my shoulder strap, but I added a 0.7 liter Gatorade bottle to that about halfway through. I actually got it in Rutland, and I was definitely happy to have that for the second half of the trail because water was less abundant, and there was like a period where it was a drought and we were doing like 12 to 15 mile stretches without any water, so I was happy to have extra kind of carrying capacity. Then I carried the tripod for my camera on there, which is a Pedco UltraPod 2. And then I also carried a cork ball, which I bought off Amazon. I've historically had a lot of issues with my feet. I thankfully didn't this time, but I did roll my feet out with this just about every night to kind of prevent any issues. On my shoulder strap here, I have the Peak Designs capture clip, which I use to carry my camera. Super convenient. It sits right here, can kind of quickly unclip it, clip it back on. It's very sturdy. I never had any issues with my camera coming off or anything like that. I have 2 hip belt pockets. In one, I keep my trowel, which is the deuce of spades, my bag of toilet paper. I typically kept my hand sanitizer in there. My AirPods, my husband bought these for me before I left, and I loved having them. And then I typically would also carry a small little Gerber knife in there, which mainly I had to cut cheese and pepperoni. And then in the other pocket here, I would keep like my snacks for the day, and then my cell phone would stay in there as well. Alright, in the front of my pack, I have my water filter and water bag. This is a 3 liter Katadyn filter. And I actually didn't start with this. I started with a Sawyer Squeeze with a Knock 2-liter bag. But I switched when I was in Manchester because my Sawyer was flowing really slow. I had hiked to the Cranberry Lake 50 before I left for the Long Trail and used the Sawyer. And there's a lot of iron deposits in the water, so I think it kind of slowed it down. Honestly, I really like the Sawyer. I don't know why I switched to the Catadine, but it felt right in Manchester, and I didn't have any issues with it. So I have just like a basic Nike hat, which I probably could have done without. I wore it mostly on days that it rained, like underneath my raincoat, just to keep the rain out of my face. And then I also wore it sometimes at camp at night if it was like buggy. I carried a head net for bugs, and I thankfully never had to wear it. And then I have my electronics bag. So this is just a Z-Packs Dyneema bag. And I kept kind of all my electronics and that kind of stuff in here. I have a little Dyneema wallet that I carried. I have my headlamp, which is a black diamond spot. I was having some issues with it when I first started. Like the batteries were really loose and wiggly, but thankfully somebody at the gear shop in Manchester helped me. And you really just had to pull the prongs out. I have an Anchor, like fast charge wall plug for when I go into town and stuff. It has 2 USB ports. That's just the base for my camera that's not currently on it. I carried charging cords. I carried an iPhone cord, which is just like the lightning cable, which I use to charge my phone and my AirPods. I carried a charging cord for my Garmin. I wear a Garmin Fenix 6S. Which I mainly wear for running. I never used it to track mileage or anything, but it was still nice to have, especially because it has maps and stuff built in. I brought an Anchor 20,000, I think it's 20,000 milliamp or amp power bank. Love this thing, got me through every day, never had issues with it dying. I carried an extra camera battery. My camera is a Nikon Z50. And then the rest of this is just like camera accessories, but I had a memory card on my camera and I carried 2 additional memory cards because I did not edit on the trail. I edited when I had got home, so all of my stuff was on there. I carried an extra set of batteries because I didn't want to be in the news for my headlamp dying and me using my cell phone and then my cell phone dying. I brought a little microfiber cleaning cloth, which I use for my camera and for my glasses. And then I keep my first aid kit in here. First aid kit's pretty basic. I have a pair of nail clippers in there, tweezers, just like Tylenol, Benadryl, a couple Band-Aids, some super glue, chewable Benadryl, stuff like that. So that's what was in my electronics bag. And then my other bag is my like toiletries bag that I carried along the way. I have this like cheap plastic glasses case that I kept my glasses and contacts in. I did carry the Long Trail map, which is like super crusty and hard right now because it probably got soaked. I looked at this a little bit early on, but I mainly used the Guthook app. But I, was still happy to have a paper map. I carried baby wipes for whatever you use baby wipes for. I carried a little hairbrush. I carried some Dr. Bronner's soap, which I would use to like wash my face or legs, because I kick myself really bad when I hike, so my legs get super muddy. And I would also use this to clean out my pot every now and then. I carried a little hairbrush. I carried toothpaste and toothbrush. I carried 100% DEET bug spray, which I did use frequently. Thankfully, somebody left this little one in a hiker box in Waitsfield, so I took that. I carried Body Glide. I really only used this, I think, the first day, so I didn't really need it. I have a pair of earplugs in there. I have an extra cap for a Sawyer that I found somewhere and thought was somebody else's, but then realized it wasn't a bad thing to have. Chapstick. I have a little thing of lotion because I get really dry skin. And then I had a bag of like multivitamins and then just like Tylenol and Benadryl if I needed it. I think that's it. So working inside my pack, I have cleaned out my food bag, so that's empty, but my tent was the Z-Plex Duplex. It's a 2-person tent that goes up with trekking poles. I really like the tent. I was sometimes bummed out when I was trying to stay on like ski lifts, like the night I stayed in Middlebury, and then other spots where there were tent platforms, because you just can't set that tent up on a tent platform. But it kept me dry. It rained a couple nights when I slept in it, and I didn't have any issues. My raincoat is a Montbell, I think it's a Versalite. I hate raincoats. I think they're stupid. I think they really don't keep you dry, but I brought one anyways, and I was definitely happy to have it when it was raining. My food bag is the Z-Packs large food bag, which I really like. It's huge. You can fit all your stuff in here if you need to. Like, early on in the last chunk, I was carrying like a full bag of Doritos, and there's plenty of room for it. I just have this cheap little like rock bag for food hangs. I hung my food along the way. And then I just have like 50 foot of paracord with a carabiner. My first set of line, I got stuck in a tree around the Cooley Glen shelter. Honestly, I was able to find like a pretty decent, like safe spot to hang my food every night except for the night that I was at Cooley Glen. And obviously like the bare boxes along the way were much appreciated, but you know, I might have brought a year sack if I did it again, just because it's easier than kind of walking around finding branches, but I didn't have any issues hanging my food. I have a Cedar Summit long-handled spork, and then I have a Cedar Summit mug, which I would use for my coffee in the morning, or I would use it if I was having like granola or something. I have a little homemade pot koozie that I made. I have a Toke 750 ml titanium pot. My stove is the BRS stove off of Amazon. It's really loud, and it probably isn't the most fuel effective thing, but it doesn't make enough of a difference for me to upgrade to something else. And then I just carried a little Bic mini lighter. And then in here I also carried a little REI like microfiber towel that I would use to wipe my pot and stuff out at night. So that. And then in the bottom of my pack, I keep like a Nylafume bag. It's like a pack liner to keep everything in there dry that I want to keep dry. My sleeping pad is the Thermarest Neo Air, I think. It's the women's version, so it's like shorter and probably like a little bit thinner. I like this. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to sleep on because I sleep really weird, but this is, you know, I've had this for a really long time. I've never had any issues with it. My pillow stopped working along the way, so I bought a new pillow in Johnson at Johnson Hardware. I think the valve on it was just like loose and wasn't working right, so I ended up buying a Nemo Pillow Elite, which I like way more than my old pillow because it's got like a soft covering on it. My old pillow is a Truckology pillow off of Amazon, which did the job for the $10 or $12 that it was. My coat is a Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisperer. Kept me plenty warm. It's pretty light. Does not have a hood. And then my clothes and other sleep system. So what else do I have in here? So I had like a little pair of light Darn Tough socks that I used for sleeping. And then initially on the trail, I had like just like this long sleeve Columbia shirt and then a pair of like leggings. But when my husband met me in Waitsfield, I actually had him bring me a pair of like little spandex shorts and a tank top because it was like in the 70s as a low at night. So I was happy to have that. I brought 2 pairs of underwear. I did not bring a second bra or anything like that. My quilt is an Enlightened Equipment 50 degree, I think it's the Revelation. It fully unzips and turns into like a big blanket if you need it to. 50 degree was definitely like a little cold. It got into the 30s at a couple points early on. But I also had a pack liner. I had a Cedar Summit Thermolite Reactor, and if I didn't have that, I would have been pretty cold. I think that is everything. So thank you everybody for watching all of my videos. And I am actually heading out to Saranac Lake tomorrow to hopefully hike some of the Saranac Six, and then we have some pretty cool camping and hiking trips planned coming up. So we'll see you soon.